Hey everyone, this is Heather with the Potomac Bead Company. Today I'm going to show you how to create our scalloped herringbone bracelet. As you can see with this bracelet that I've created, I've used two different types of blues, a darker blue in the middle and a lighter blue on the edges. And I've also used some gold for my bridged work, and then I also used 6mm neon rounds. This bracelet pretty much it's a herringbone base, and between each herringbone we've created a bridge type effect that's created that ends up making it look like a scalloped looking bracelet, a herringbone. So what you'll need for this project is probably around 14 grams of 8/0 seed beads. You'll need a couple 2 to 3 grams of 11/0s, and depending on how many rounds you want for your bracelet, that's how many rounds you'll need. I was just getting kind of creative with this bracelet. I wanted to check it out, see how it looked. It's a very versatile bracelet. You don't need to use the rounds, the round beads. You can replace them with something smaller like cubes or tilas, but just keep in mind that the bigger the round, the more dramatic your scallop is going to look. And then, of course, the smaller your round and the larger the width of your herringbone, the less dramatic your scallop edge will look. So this was a 6-row herringbone base. So I have, as you can see, six or three sets of herringbone. Herringbone is a set of 2. You're going to start your bracelet off with a ladder stitch. So we're going to do a different variation to this bracelet. This was just for show and tell purposes, and we're going to do something a little bit less complicated today, and then you can let your imagination run after you learn how to do what I'm going to teach you today. So you'll need a couple of feet of fireline thread, 0.006 inch or 0.008, 0.8. You'll also need size 10 or 12 beading needle and some 11/0 seed beads, 8/0s, and a couple of rounds. So once you get your needle onto your thread and you've attached a stop bead on, I'm going to show you how to start your ladder. Okay, so once you've got your stop bead on, I've went ahead and put on 4 of my 8/0 seed beads onto my thread. I'm going to take my needle up through the first 2 seed beads only, and I'm going to create my ladder stitch. So once I've done that, as you can see, the second set of seed beads of my 2 8/0s kind of lay right next to the first 2. So I'm going to take my needle down the second set of the 2 8/0s. At this point, I'm going to add 2 more of my 8/0s to my project, and then take my needle back down through those 2 seed beads. And so that actually makes those two 8/0s that I put on my project lay right next to the previous. I'm going to take my needle up through those 2 8/0s, and then I'm going to add 2 more of 8/0s and take my needle up through the row before it. Then I'm going to take my needle back down through those 2 8/0 seed beads I just added. Now we have a ladder stitch of just 4, and this is going to be the width of our bracelet. For the bracelet that I created here, I've actually had 6, a row of 6 rows. You can make it wider if you like, but for today's purposes, I'm going to show you something very simple. That way you can you just get the idea of it and maybe make a more dramatic bracelet if you like. So I want my needle coming out of the top row, or the second row actually. So in order to do that, I am going to take my needle to my left, take it up just 1 seed bead, and then I'm going to cross over, take my needle up through the last seed bead, like that, and just kind of pull. So now I'm in position to start my herringbone. Now with the herringbone, like I said, you need, it's an even count, or it's a couple, so it's definitely even. And you do get a V-shaped appearance with it. So what I'm going to do is pick up 2 of my 8/0s and take my needle down just 1 to the left, just 1 seed bead. I'm not going to take my needle down 2, just going to take it down 1. Then I'm going to take my needle up through the 3rd seed bead in that column. And I'm going to add 2 more 11/0s and then take my needle down through that last seed bead. So there is my first row of herringbone. At this point, you can add your fringe if you'd like. For this bracelet, I did not add a fringe. I just kind of kept going. And to do that, you can actually repeat the same process that I repeated down here. Take your needle back up through that 2nd seed bead and then up through the outer seed bead. But we're going to do an embellishment because I think, or we're going to do a fringe because I think they're pretty and this bracelet's kind of dainty. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0. You can use anything for your fringe. You can use drops, you can use rizos, you can use magatamas, anything, or cubes, anything for your fringe. So then I just took my needle up through that 8/0. I'm going to add 2 8/0s, take my needle down through the next one. And here's where we're going to begin our bridge. I'm going to pick up an 11/0 and I'm going to take my needle up through the next 8/0. I'm going to pull. And that 11/0 is just going to lie in between, like a bridge, in between those 2 herringbone sets. I'm going to pick up 2 8/0s, take my needle down through that last 8/0. Going to pick up an 11/0 for my fringe and take my needle up through that 8/0. Add 2 8/0s, take my needle down through the 2nd 8/0. And now I'm going to add 2 more 11/0s for my bridge. Take my needle up through the next set of herringbone. Pick up 2 8/0s, take my needle down the next 8/0. Then I'm going to pick up an 11/0 for my fringe and take my needle up through that 8/0. Now I'll pick up 2 8/0s, take my needle down through the 2nd 8/0. I'm going to add 3 11/0s for my bridge. This bridge we're actually increasing, so when you increase your bridge, you're just adding 1 extra. Then I'm going to take my needle up through the first 8/0 of my set of herringbone, add 2 8/0s and take my needle down through that last 8/0. Pick up an 11/0 for my fringe, take my 11/0 up through that 2nd 8/0. Add 2 8/0s, take my needle down through the 2nd 8/0. I'm going to add 4 11/0s for my bridge because I'm still increasing. And I'm going to take my needle up through that 8/0. Add 2 8/0s, take my needle down through the last 8/0. Pick up an 11/0 for my fringe, take it up through that 8/0. And as you can see with the increase, we're going to start our scallop. Picking up 2 8/0s, taking it down through the next 8/0. And here is where I'm going to add my neon ball, or my neon round, excuse me. And it's a 6mm bead. And for those who actually want a larger bead, you'll probably need to do more increases because you don't want to show too much of thread. So what will happen is if you have a bigger, if you have a bigger size bead, you'll probably continue your increases to maybe 6 11-ohs or a couple of cubes or whatever your project calls for. And that's probably where you'll have to play around with and check it out a little bit. So I picked up 2 8-ohs after I added my round. And I'm sorry, I'm not picking up anything right yet. So take that back. After I've added my round bead, I'm going to take my needle up through an 8-oh. And now I'm going to pick up 2 8-ohs, take my needle down through the last seed bead. Pick up an 11-oh for my fringe, take your needle up through that 8-oh. Pick up 2 8-ohs and take your needle down through the second. And now at this point I'm actually going to go back through my neon ball. And then I'm going to go up through the 8-oh, the first 8-oh of my herringbone. Pick up 2 8-ohs and then take your needle down through the last 8-oh. I'm going to pick up an 11-oh for my fringe and take my needle back up through the 8-oh. Pick up 2 8-ohs, take your needle down through the second. And now we're at the point where I'm going to start decreasing my bridge. So I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads to mirror 4 11-ohs to mirror what's on the other side of my neon ball. And I'm going to take my needle up through the next herringbone stitch. Add 2 8-ohs, take my needle down through that last 8-oh, pick up your fringe and take it up through the last 8-oh. Pick up 2 8-ohs, take your needle down through the next 8-oh, and now I'm decreasing, so I'm going to add 3 11-ohs. And take your needle up through that the stitch on that herringbone. So as you can see, it's kind of given a very subtle scalloped appearance to it. And then you're going to keep doing this until you've reached the length of your bracelet. Now, I do want to make note, for this bracelet, what I did do, I did create, once I got to when I was decreasing my bridge and I got to 1 for the row, I just want you to know that I did stick just a plain row of herringbone stitch before I continued on to my next increasing bridge. So that's up to you if that's what you want to do for this bracelet. If you don't want to add that row of plain herringbone and you just want to start another increase, that's up to you. This bracelet is going to be very subtle. It's not going to be as scallopy as this one because we're only doing the middle portion. If I were to do 6 ladder stitch rows instead of just 4 like I do here, then I would have the ability to do a bridge in between both sides of my herringbone. And the same thing for 8. I'd have the versatility to kind of stick your bridges in between the herringbone stitch. So, and then you'll be able to get a better, more defined scallop look to it. And like I said, the larger bead that you use in the middle, or I could have just used 11-ohs, and I could have increased it to about 8 11-ohs, and it would have a more defined scallop look to it. So I'm just throwing that out there to everybody so that you know what you're getting into, and you're going to continue this design that I've just done here until you reach the end of your bracelet. Okay, now that you've completed the length of your bracelet, I'm going to show you how to finish it off. I've actually added 3 rows of herringbone, just simple herringbone with no bridging. So I'm going to complete 1 more row of herringbone by adding 2 of my 8-ohs, I'm just going to complete the row like I would a normal like a normal herringbone, flat herringbone. Pick up 2 more 8s, bring them down. Add your fringe with your 11O, and then take your needle up through that last 8. At this point, what I'm going to do, now that I'm done, I'm going to take my needle down 2 rows, and take needle up 2 rows. I want to give it that ladder appearance, and then back down the last 2 rows. Take your needle back up 2 rows over, and then back down to the left 2 rows, and one more time up through the last. And it will still have a herringbone effect, but at least I've kind of straightened it out to a ladder. So at this point, what I'm going to do is bring my needle back down the 2 rows and then back up, and I'm going to complete my project by adding my clasp and my toggle. And to do that, I'm going to pick up I'm going to pick up 3 11s, drop them down, pick up 3 more 11s, and then I'm going to use my 8mm neon bead as my toggle, pick up an 11O, take my needle, pass it, skip my 11O that I just added, pass it through my neon bead, and down through the first 3 neon 11Os, and then pull. I'm going to add 3 more 11Os, and take my needle down the second bead, just like so. And at this point, you can reinforce your toggle if you'd like by taking your needle through the project one more time. And that's pretty much how you complete your toggle. On the other end, you're going to take your stop bead off, and you're going to add, like I did here, I think I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I added 15 11O seed beads. So if you need more string, go ahead and add more thread, and bring your needle back to the point where you'd like to add your clasp portion. And that's pretty much it. You're going to tie off your thread, making your half hitch knots if you like, and that is how you do our scalloped herringbone. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. It was fairly easy, and this is a very simple project, and I hope that I get to see some of your scalloped herringbones that are a little bit more complicated and maybe a little bit wider than the one that I created here. Be imaginative. Don't use just regular rounds. Have fun with it. Check us out on Facebook, and hope you can watch some of our other YouTube videos. And one day we'll see you in the store. And thanks again for watching.